Hello and welcome to Your Manchester on a week where the sensational book by Prince Harry was released, a book which has fired up so much opinion on himself and also aimed a very large spotlight on the behind-the-scenes goings-on of the royal family. Now, did this book shine the spotlight too strong on his family? And is the said author himself being hypocritical? There's a lot of questions to be asked, and so we'll be asking our guests their opinion as we go through today. So you, of course, can leave your opinions at the bottom as well. Now, our guests tonight are fabulous performers and creatives. We've got Luke Bayer, who joins us before embarking upon the European premiere of the musical Head Over Heels. We're also joined by Leah Jameson and Lucy Gray as we talk about Pride and Prejudice, well, sort of. And the fantastic writer Harriet Madely joins us to talk about what was known as the trial of the century. All this plus a look at the most famous daytime soap actress, the legend Noel Gordon, and of course Hayley has the latest films, and Paul is on yet another ramble. So loads going on for you. But first tonight, joining us via link is Luke Bayer, a musical theatre actor who, in my opinion, has only just scraped the surface of his talent. He was born in North Yorkshire and was quickly discovered on X Factor, where his mentor was Danny Minogue. He was then in the original cast of the fabulous Everybody's Talking About Jamie as the alternate Jamie, and won himself a Broadway World Award as Best Understudy in that said show. Now it's time for him to return home to Hope Mill Theatre, where many of you would have saw him dazzling audiences in Yank. He's going to be back with the European premiere of Head Over Heels, and to find out more, please welcome Luke Bayer. How are you, Luke? Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm great, thanks. How are you?
This is all very exciting. I imagine for you, returning back to Hope Mill is just a joy, is it not?
Oh, I absolutely love the Hope Mill. This is going to be my third time there. Joe and Will, who run the Hope Mill, are just fantastic, the kindest, most brilliant people. And it's just such a hub for like new, exciting and like current work. So I'm really excited to be back.
Now, of course, you're returning with the European premiere of Head Over Heels. But what is Head Over Heels?
So Head Over Heels is a musical. It was on Broadway in 2018. And it's fantastic. It's a story about love. It's about inclusion. It was the first musical ever to have a non-binary lead character on Broadway. And it's a really fun show. The music's by the Go-Go's. You know the band the Go-Go's?
Mm-hmm.
Who the music slaps. I'm going to be honest. The music really slaps. When I was going to audition for the show, I listened to the album and I became a bit obsessed. And for me, it was one of those jobs and one of those shows that I listened to the album and I thought, and I read the story and about all the different characters and how they all intertwine. And I thought, I really want to do this, and I'll be really gutted if I don't book this one. And luckily I got the job, and we're now in rehearsals, and we've not got long left to go.
So why is this a musical that's important to you then?
It's because it's so inclusive. It represents everyone. It's just so. I love being involved in new work as well. And I feel like this is a whole new reincarnation of the show. The show was on Broadway in 2018. And I feel like even in that past... So 2018 was 5 years ago. That's mental. I'm sorry, that is mental. COVID stole our life. And within that time, I feel like so much has changed. And I feel like this show is even more important and more current now with the themes running through it.
So what do we expect? Have you started rehearsals yet? I should ask first of all.
We started rehearsals last week, yeah.
And how's it all going?
It's so good. The cast are brilliant. The ensemble, for me especially, I'm just everyone. But the ensemble, I watched them, and Tom Jackson Greaves, who's choreographing and directing the show, and his assistant Neil Martin, they're just fantastic. And the choreo and like the brains to make it look so amazing is just fantastic.
It feels like this is going to be a very lively musical. Obviously, the musicals that tend to go to Hope Mill these days are boxed off as small-scale musicals, and yet, actually, when you go and see them, they're on par with anything you can find at any of the opera houses and the big theatres up and down the country. So, what can we expect to see?
I mean, the set and stuff already from we've had like a what's it called, like a design meeting, and they've shown us all the set and all the ideas. It looks fantastic, and they really do make the most out of the space there. And I think with it, personally, I love that, like the more intimate things. And I think the Hope Mill seats 140 people. So if you come and see the show, you're like right in on the action, which I love. And I love going to watch things where you don't necessarily know what the show's going to be about, or you've kind of got an idea, but it's something that you just don't know about, you know.
It's going to be sensational. Where can we catch this? When can we catch this? How soon can we come and see this?
So you can come and see us. We start previews on the 26th of January, which is a Thursday, and we are running until the 4th of March. And you can get your tickets on the Hope Mill Theatre website. So come and see us. It's going to be fun. It's going to be really fun. It is
going to be fun. For now, though, Luke Bayer, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
How fantastic is that? Thank you, Luke. I tell you what, there's so many icons and legends that are just gracing our wonderful screens and theatres at the moment. One lady who did both was a lady called Noel Gordon, as you may remember from Crossroads. This is what our Mark found out all about her.
Joan Noel Gordon, the middle name comes from the fact she was born on Christmas Day, was the first child of Scottish parents who had recently moved to London, her father being in the Royal Navy. She made her stage debut at the East Ham Palace Theatre in East London at the age of just 2.5. After school, she would win a scholarship to go to RADA. Repertory theatre followed, and she made her West End debut in the revue Let's Face It. She did over 1,000 performances on stage in the musical Brigadoon and appeared in the Royal Command performance in 1949. She'd appear again in 1981. She played Principal Boy at the London Palladium and indeed visited all the principal theatres around the UK. We, of course, know her more for her role on television and principally the daytime soap opera Crossroads. But one thing perhaps people don't know so much about her is that she was the first person to appear on colour television in this country. And that's because she worked with John Logie Baird in his experiment. She would appear on stage in repertory theatre during the day. When she'd finished at night, a chocolate-coloured Rolls Royce would come and pick her up and take her off to these sort of studios where Logie Baird and his team of technicians would have a talk to the camera so that they could experiment with colour. To do this, she had to wear very brightly coloured clothes and hats, which were specially made for the process, and at times she even had to paint green stripes on her face so that they could try and get the colour right, you see. But anyway, she took part in those experiments for about 6 months, and as such was a pioneer in television. But as I said before, it's probably ATV and Crossroads that we most remember her for. Noel was employed by ATV to get the channel ready for going on air for the very first time in 1956, and she worked behind the camera developing programme ideas and working in production. She only ended up in front of the camera when they needed to put together an emergency programme, and that became Tea with Noel Gordon, which she did over 2,000 episodes for. In 1964, the channel decided to launch its own daily soap opera, Crossroads, and she was taken on as the first and only permanent cast member. All the other cast members were on temporary rolling contracts. Her character, the owner of the motel, was Meg Richardson, became later episodes as Meg Mortimer. She won the TV Times Most Loved Actress Award an incredible 8 times, and she became a stalwart of British television, appearing in thousands of episodes until she left in 1981, returning in 83 for a brief sojourn. But yes, her departure in 81 was rather controversial. She was sacked by the new owners of ATV, Carlton Television, who we now believe were intending to axe the whole show, and they hoped that with her departure, viewers would turn off and make what might have been a controversial decision rather easier. She went on to appear in stage shows around the world, tours of things like Call Me Madam, Gypsy, and so on. And she's still remembered today as the queen of daytime soap. One of her co-stars, Tony Adams, said, "There has never been a star of Crossroads. However, Nolly was Crossroads." Her life story is being touched upon in an ITV drama, and no doubt we'll hear more about her in that. But until then, excuse me. Hello, Crossroads Motel. I must take this, it's a booking for one of the suites. Back to the studio. I can do that, yes.
Well, thank you, Mark. Now, Pride and Prejudice is a beautiful love story from Jane Austen, and everybody knows the story and the characters from the 18th century wonderful novel, everybody. So what could possibly go right or wrong with this classic being given to writer Isabel MacArthur? What happens is an Olivier Award-winning play is brought to you, and we, the audience, are treated to one amazing night out in what I described as a newly digestible version of that classic. And joining us now are cast members Lucy Gray and Leah Jameson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for having us.
You'll have to explain to me, this has been altered, changed the story. What is it that we're seeing that would be different from, say, the original?
Well, it's still the same story, and it's still all the characters that, if you know the novel, you'll know and love. But we're just telling it in a slightly different way. As you say, perhaps more digestible to most people.
Oh yeah, with a little bit of karaoke thrown in there just to top it off.
Sorry, karaoke in a Jane Austen. Explain more about that for me.
So the wonderful way that Isabel MacArthur has created this show is it's wonderful for both people that already love the story and people that are coming in having no idea of what's going on and who these characters are. So we have some gorgeous songs. We do You're So Vain, and we've got Holding Out for a Hero, and a few more. We won't tell you all of them, so you can be surprised when you come to the show. But really, really cool karaoke songs thrown in there.
And of course, this is synonymous for being one quite amazing, if slightly comical, love story. Is that all still within this version?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You still get to watch Elizabeth Bennet and Fitzwilliam Darcy football and love with each other against all their better judgments, and yeah, it's all still the same story. If you love Colin Firth, I'd recommend coming along. Keira Knightley, it's all in there, but it's just told with a bit more fun.
It sounds, I mean, things need re-envisioning occasionally, don't they? So, I mean, why not with Jane Austen's things? We get in the costumes and everything in this as well that we are familiar with.
Oh yeah, so in the cast, there's only 5 of us, and we play all of the characters. So
wow.
How many, you play like 4 or 5 characters?
I think 4.
I'm playing 4 or 5 characters, and it's all the ladies get these beautiful long dresses in all varying types of colours, and we've got gorgeous jackets for the male characters, and there's a lot of swapping in and out of costumes. We've got very, very good at putting them on, but there's a lot of quick changes in the show. But yeah, the costume design has been absolutely stunning in this production.
So who are you two playing within this then?
I play
everyone. You play everyone.
Lydia Bennet, Mary Bennet, who are 2 of the younger
Yes.
sisters. I also play Mr. Collins, who is like the kind of disgusting, horrible parish pastor man who tries to marry Elizabeth. No, I have no strong feelings about the character. And I also play Mrs. Gardner, who's the lovely, kind aunt. And
I think that might be it.
Everyone.
Yeah.
And you play.
I'm the Bingleys, brother and sister, and I'm also Charlotte Lucas as well. And Izzo wrote a beautiful storyline for Charlotte in the queer reimagining of her as a part, which is an amazing thing. So yeah,
it is. Now, Pride and Prejudice. Then, I have been going on quite a lot through this interview that people must know it. If they don't know the story of this, what, in a nutshell, is the story of Pride and Prejudice?
Go on. So you have a family, the Bennets, and their mother, Mrs. Bennet, is very keen on getting some daughters married off, because if they don't get the daughters married off, and they lose everything when Mr. Bennet dies. And the entire story is about our romantic lead, Liz Bennet, falling against her better judgment, madly in love, whilst Mrs. Bennet is also trying to manage all of her daughters getting married off perfectly to tie off the nice neat bow. That's what I'd say, maybe.
Yeah, that was quite a good summary.
Nice try.
Very good summary, in fact. Yeah, very good summary. Very, very good indeed. And why do you think it's become a classic, this story, then? Why is it a classic?
I think it's so easy to relate to these characters, even though this was written 200 odd years ago. It's still so many themes and topics in the show are still things that we're experiencing today. We're still experiencing gender equality, class issues, And then there's such universal things like love. And Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy are two very, very strong-willed characters. And the reason that we have such a rocky love story is because they just don't flipping tell each other that they love each other. And I think we've all experienced something along those lines. So yeah, it's just so universally.
I'm looking forward to this one. I think it's going to be absolutely epic and different and new. Where can we find this and when?
So we're at the Lowry next week. Lowry in Salford on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And then after that, we're touring everywhere. So if you go to Pride and Prejudice .org, one of them.
That's Pride and Prejudice sort of.
Yeah.
You'll find all our dates on there.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you to both of you. Thank you. Well, right now, then, we are now handing it over to the very gorgeous Hayley Cartwright as she tells us more about the films and television to watch.
Hi, I'm Hayley and welcome to your film and also your TV. Now, I cannot recommend the film Stargirl enough. It's recently hit Disney. It's a wonderful coming-of-age film. It's beautiful. It's about acceptance and difference. And it's based on a best-selling novel as well. Catch it if you can. It is absolutely brilliant. Can you tell? I loved it. Watch it. Another film on my hit list is Babylon, starring Brad Pitt. This hits cinemas next week, and it's about Hollywood's transition from silent films to sound in the late 1920s. It's actually directed by Damien Chazelle of Whiplash and La La Land, so it should be absolutely epic. March will also see John Wick Chapter 4. Keanu Reeves is back as John, and this promises to be the most action-packed of the franchise. That's out in cinema, like I say, in March. Oh, and before I go, television. Dancing on Ice is back this Sunday, yay! ITV, lots of celebrities, including Molly Gallagher of Coronation Street, Michelle Heaton, and also Vivian, drag star Vivian. That's it from me. I shall catch you next time, and remember, stronger together. Bye.
Well, he's out and about yet again, and the weather doesn't look too nice for him, but nevertheless, he's on a good old ramble. Take it away, Paul Rudd.
Okay, can you guess where I am this week? In the background you can see the famous Mr. Thomas's Chippy, and you can see some boats. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Rambling with Rudd. This week I'm here at Hollingworth Lake. There's a lot to get through, so come on, let's go and ramble. Look at the rain. Look, there's the beach club. Might go in for a coffee, as I don't drink alcohol. I've been sober for 5 years this year. There's the start of Hollingworth Lake. And there's the beautiful lake. How stunning does that look? Hollingworth Lake is a 130-acre reservoir, and it takes 2.4 miles to get around. It's very quiet. But you know what? This is great for the mindset. Get all togged up like I am right now, with a brand new coat, hat, scarf and my gloves. It's gorgeous. I used to come running round the lake years ago, and we used to do twice round, even in the rain, snow, all sorts, but I haven't run for ages actually. And it's good that I'm doing this because my dad died in September, so it was very sad, and ever since then I've got myself out. Great for your mindset. Just look at that stunning lake. And I think just round the corner is a lovely cafe where you can get a nice latte if you wanted. But there are loads of different cafes, restaurants, pubs about in Hollingworth Lake. Oh, there's the water sports. I think that's where they do the sailing. An owl. That's nice, isn't it? Woo. There's a lovely cafe. Stunning views. Over here there is a children's playing area. So Hollingworth Lake is definitely family friendly. Surprised myself, been out at the weekend at the theatre, 2 meals out, and get rambling with Rudd. That's me, Paul Rudd. I hope you've enjoyed my trip round Hollingworth Lake this week. Just wear lively next week. I'll be going up and down Greater Manchester, finding you the best walks. And there is a walk for everyone. So put your best foot forward and get rambling with Rod. Until next time, back to the studio.
Well, how fantastic is that our Rudd rambling about now? In December of 1922, a 28-year-old lady called Edith Thompson was put on trial for inciting her husband's murder. Now, 12 people literally had her life in their hands, and the verdict inspired a petition that was signed by nearly 1 million people. Now, I know 1 million people doesn't sound that much at present with social media and everything, but imagine 1 million people having a passion for this lady back in 1922. Now, excuse me, there is a new play called Edith coming to the Lowry very, very soon, and the writer of this joins us now. Welcome, Harriet Madely. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
This, I have to say, has excited me somewhat, because it's quite fascinating to think that 1 million people got behind this lady. Can we give the verdict away? Does that affect the story at all?
Well, I think we can, yeah, because it's a big part of why her story is so important. She was found guilty of the crime. Important to say, she was put on trial for inciting the murder. So she didn't literally, her husband was stabbed and she didn't stab him, but she was put on trial for inciting the stabbing. Mm-hmm. So basically persuading someone to stab her. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's an important story, because, I mean, we're going back to 1922. People were a lot more verbally passionate back in them days. And 1 million people signing this petition. How did 1 million people come to find out about this?
Well, the whole trial was a massive sensation. It was on the front cover of every newspaper. And a big reason for that, I think, is it was a scandal. I mean, Edith, the person who stabbed Edith's husband was her lover. So she was this 28-year-old woman having an affair with a younger man. And the idea being put across in the trial was that the two of them had sort of conspired to kill her husband. So it was this kind of salacious soap opera in the media at the time. And I think, you know, people were following the trial. And then when Edith was found guilty, she was put to death. So she was, the plan was for her to be executed. And that's when this petition started to circulate, because I think even though during the trial, people sort of loved to hate Edith, they thought she was, you know, a symbol of everything that was going wrong with the modern world at the time. But it was still very unusual to hang a woman. And so I don't think actually... there were an enormous number of people who weren't okay with the idea that she'd be put to death for this.
Now, how do you come about as a writer getting voices and things to place within this that makes it a fulfilling play?
Yeah, well, there's a few different ways you can approach it, I suppose. The sort of structure of the play is the trial, really. So I was really interested in Edith as a person and her story, but also in this public sensational trial, and so that formed the kind of basis for the play. And I've used a lot of the real court transcripts, so it's sort of like a documentary, if you like. I'm
surprised it's never been a film. Maybe it will be after your writing. But you've actually used voices from prisoners. Am I right in thinking this?
Well, while I was developing the play, I took the script to a women's prison in Style, and I worked with some of the women there on how Edith should be put across, basically. And I went in with National Prison Radio and we recorded the women discussing the play. Because really the way the play is set up is the audience is kind of the jury, and we're all there to sort of see what we think of Edith and kind of judge her. So I sort of did that with the women, and their feedback was very, very interesting, because obviously they've had experiences of being on trial, they've had experiences in the media, and so their ideas have very much fed into the project.
Now, had Edith been doing this trial in modern day, where do you think opinion would have lied?
So interesting, isn't it? I mean, part of the reason I wanted to make this is because I think we're still very bad at giving women the same kind of benefit of the doubt as we might give men. I think that you only have to look at kind of various modern parallels that I won't necessarily go into, but like unlikable women on trial inspire a lot of interest and inspire a lot of hate. And I think a lot of the stuff with Edith was, you know, she was working class, but she was doing quite well. She was actually making more money than her husband. She was an older woman having an affair with a younger man, you know, all of these things. And she was one of those women that kind of other women don't like, who sort of flirted with a lot of men, maybe didn't have that many female friends. She's the sort of woman who probably most of us would just have that sort of, oh, I just don't like her feeling. And so, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this, and obviously that the crime of murder is a very serious crime, but it's important to say that there was no actual evidence that she was responsible for the murder of her husband. But yeah, public opinion just didn't go her way because they just didn't like her. They just didn't trust her. And they thought she'd been having an affair with this guy, the guy who did stab her husband. So, it must have been her fault. She must have told him to do it. I think that was the same today.
Yeah, I mean, it fascinates me. Where can we find this then, please, to watch the play?
So we're on at the Lowry from the 1st of February for a week. So 1st till the 4th of February. And there's a live stream happening on the 3rd of February as well, if you can't get there. But yeah, do come to the Lowry if you're around.
I'm quite excited by this. I'm all into the murder mystery side of what and yesteryear as well, and how it reflects on today. So I'm quite excited by it all.
We're all still obsessed, aren't we? We're obsessed by true crime and by murder trials, and I am also obsessed by that. But I'm also interested in the fact that we're also obsessed, because is that okay? Is that right? So yeah, we're sort of doing that, but also interrogating that.
Sounds fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today, and we will be definitely checking this one out. Thank you very much. We're out and about this Sunday, so if you do see us, say hi to us all. In the meantime, though, thanks to each and every one of you for watching this week's episode of Your Manchester.